There has been a running theme on the Stock Watch, and now I need an actual financial football expert to tell me if I'm on the right track. I am Austin Ward. That is Bobby Carpenter, the expert that I called him. So-called, as I was going to say, but that's not true because you are the one that we need. It is a Wednesday. It is a Stock Watch. And Bob, pretty much every week, me and Birm have been talking about somebody on the Ohio State defense, and it always circles back to Matt Patricia. And I remember talking with you February. It's like, I don't know.
You guys were hating on him, and I was kind of bolstering him up.
A little bit. Hating might be too strong. I was curious, and I would say skeptical would be the right word about it, and
Healthy
surprised.
level of skepticism is good.
And you should have that. But man, everything since then has checked the box. Now, I know that you got to get to August and win games, and that's the ultimate evaluation. But from what you've seen, and you already had a pre-existing relationship with Matt Patricia, what is it about him that has been impressed you the most, validated the way that you viewed this hire 4 months ago?
Well, I think his interaction with the players. I think a lot of people saw Matt Patricia in Detroit. I talked to him about that, why it worked, why it didn't. And having been in Detroit, it gives you kind of a unique understanding of how things worked then. I think they've changed a little bit now with Dan, but it's like you being in Tennessee, like being in there, like in the sausage factory, like you have a different perspective on things than maybe others do. And, I'm Matt talked, like maybe I could have done some things differently. There's some reflection. But I always said, like, he's really smart and he relates to people really well. And if you have those two things as a coach, that means you have a high level of competence and you have a great deal of connection, and so you can relate it. And so you have the three C's of trust: competence, character, and connection. Like, what do you know? What are you? And can you communicate it? And so Matt's really able to do that. He's as smart a guy as you're going to find.
Right.
But he doesn't come off as arrogant. You've talked to him. He's a big collaborative guy. And so when you're dropped into a defense where everybody else is already set, and so you could be like, well, this is how I want to do it.
Sure.
Some people do that. They come in with a hammer so everything looks like a nail. Or Matt has always been great where, hey, what about this? What about that? And if it's your idea, then it's our idea together. And so I think that was number one. The players recognize his intelligence. The way that he calls things, it's foundationally building. And so Jim liked to do some things where it was, a simple word told you like 10 words.
Yeah.
Which, okay, that's good and it's quick, but it's really hard to learn. And so the way that they've done it is they structurally build the calls. And I'm a little biased with it because I grew up in that system.
Yeah.
It's what, going down the coaching tree of D'Antonio, coaching for Saban, coaching for Belichick, coaching for Parcells. Like, so I played for like three of the four.
This was a language that you already knew.
Yes. So like 85%, I was like, oh, that makes sense. There's one of the calls that literally, when I got to Dallas, they called it, and then we called it again in New England. And Belichick's like, we've been calling this since Lawrence Taylor played in this defense. He's like, why change the name of it? I'm like, yeah, see, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So they've always kind of had some of these things built in. And the guys have really responded well. Caleb liked a lot of it because there was that transfer of some of that Alabama knowledge with what he was doing. And Sonny's loved it, and I think everybody's really enjoyed that. And then also, it's very multiple. So it allows some of the linebackers to do some different things. There's going to be more packages. Matt's familiarity with the 3 down front. And some of the personnel they have, like, okay, maybe we do a little 3 down, do a little 4 down, move some guys around. And all of those guys, I think, really in the spring, really loved it. It was a lot to learn, but I think they really embraced it.
Yeah, and I think we get more questions about what the scheme is going to look like and what piece goes where and who's going to play this amount of reps and be in the rotation. And it's like, I don't know that was really the goal in spring to get all of that done. And we can get into that and what you think it might look like. But it's been more fascinating to me to watch the relationship piece, because throughout June when we're out at these camps and recruiting camps and seeing whether it's CJ Hicks or Caleb Downs or, Jermaine Matthews, anybody else, it was like, I don't know if Matt Patricia became a hugger, if he's always been a hugger. He's always got someone hugging him. And that's the part that to me flies most in the face of what I thought the prickly personality, the Belichickian, the press conference stuff in Detroit. It was like, this is the guy that's going to be hard to get along with. That was my perception. That's not been the reality.
So also, when you sit in the big chair, there's like...
You don't get those hugs then?
Well, I think sometimes you feel the stress. And like, seen what Ryan can kind of look like as the season wears on and everybody's just beating on you. And so, like, yeah, there's a little bit of an edge that comes out, and especially in a place like Detroit. And I think maybe Matt was trying to be a little bit more Belichickian. It's like, dude, just be you.
Yeah.
You're a nice dude. And like I said, when you are a great communicator and you're really grateful and you talk to guys and you're able to be like, hey, what do you think? Like, being collaborative. People appreciate it. It's amazing when you're asking for their feedback. They give it to you like, all right, well, let's try to do it this way.
Yeah.
And then you're like, dude, you're pounding the bag, this and that. Like, okay, we can now have a good, like, a relationship. Doesn't mean I'm not going to coach you hard, but we can have a relationship where you really care about each other. And I think when you have that, that just elevates your whole team. And so I don't know if he was ever really a hugger in the NFL. You don't really hug a ton, but like, I mean, dude, he's a guy that I always like feel comfortable putting my arm around. He'll come up and put his arm around me, and I think that's just kind of who he is as a person, and his normal homeostasis. Like, maybe he got a little mutated in Detroit, but he's always been kind of like that.
I mean, that's just the way it seems to work with Belichick. It's like removing the personality. Maybe there's some freedom that Matt, I haven't asked Matt Patricia from that, and he's not going to say anything bad about Bill Belichick, and I don't mean it that way, but he's not, as you say, he's not in the big chair. He's not being asked to go do through every single press conference. He's not going to be asked to shoulder the entire burden of the Ohio State program. That's a big deal, and I wonder if that freedom, how that will impact him as a coach, or if he's already enjoying that, because we've seen him do some things. Birm has talked about this, where he's embracing being on the road and doing recruiting and like getting to shop for the groceries in a way that you don't get to with New England. That seems to resonate with him. Maybe there's a different comfort level for him right now than he's had before.
So, I think people think, for NFL coaches, like, they don't recruit so they can't recruit. And like, how are they going to adjust with that time? I mean, they work a lot in the NFL. I mean, you're not on the road, but you might as well be.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not getting home till midnight and you're leaving your house at 5, I mean, what's the difference between that and sleeping in a hotel in some random state? And I think there is an enjoyment of him, like, being able to sell. Like, I've won a lot of Super Bowls as a coach. Like, done a really good job. And the freedom of, I've been a head coach now, understand what all that entails and everything that goes on. Now I just get to do this. And the best part about coaching for Ryan, there's a heavy degree of autonomy. Like, here's your responsibilities. Go be the best in the country at your craft. What do you need? How can I help you? And there's carte blanche. And like, we'll talk about how it looks and some different things, but as long as things are going well, like, I'm here to be a resource for you, not sit here and hover over your shoulder. So I think that's a very freeing, fun experience. And then he's got a pretty good staff. He's like, he coached with James and Walt, Matt Guerrero. He's like, we have other smart guys. Larry Johnson, who's got a wealth of experience. He's got a really good staff. So as a defensive coordinator, you walk into that room, we've got a lot of talent. I've got a head coach that's great. He allows me to do my job. And the other coaches that I'm with, there's nobody there that I feel like I have to drag the slack and like help pull them along, because they're all pulling their weight.
What have you sensed from Matt Patricia that he thinks that this defense needs to do? It's so hard. I'm trying to get to the right way to put this. You're taking over the number one defense in the country. They won a national championship.
How do you become the top gun of defenses?
Yeah. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Because a lot of times you get hired to do these jobs and it's to fix something. And there's not anything that you look at that's like broken about the Ohio State defense. So I wonder and you've talked to him about this, what he views as his challenge or his mission, because you're trying to stay at the same level and you want to put your own stamp on it in some way, even if you have a lot of the pieces, how they might fit, what that should look like. You have Matt Guerrero, Tim Walton, Larry Johnson, James Laurinaitis holding over. They know what they do and what can explain that to you, but Matt Patricia's at the top of that. What do you think he views as his mission here?
Probably, I'd say elevate. I mean, you're the best defense in the country. But the thing was, you've lost 8 of those guys. So like every year now, it's how do I create? I think his mission, and I talked to him about this when he got here. I'm like, there's 2 types of coaches. There's coaches that are system guys, and this is my system. I'm going to find the guys that fit in. And that works really well unless you don't have the right guys. Mm-hmm. I've always been more of a pragmatic coach of, okay, here's a lot of the things I like to do. Now I've got to match what I like to do and tailor that down. And maybe there's 20% that we're not going to use. How do we take the 80 that fits these guys really well and put these guys in the right position to succeed? It's a little bit like playing chess and trying to figure out like, hey man, I may have 4 bishops here. Like, how do I utilize that as opposed to maybe sometimes having 4 rooks or 3 rooks and 2 knights or whatever it is.
Sure.
figuring out that composite. Are we good on the back end? What type of versatility? How do I use a guy like Caleb Downs? How do we figure that out? Maybe we're not as deep in the middle. So how can we've got some big, long linebackers. Maybe we get these guys involved in some rush and some edge work. And so like, what do those calls look like? What do we get good at? And that's what I think he's really excited about, is going through camp, battling our offense and saying, what are we kind of good at? And then let's build that package to what's some of the things these guys do really well.
I felt like that's been the hardest part to say, well, okay, well, what is Matt Patricia going to run at Ohio State? What is this scheme going to look like? And it sounds like a cop-out to just say they're going to be really multiple. They're going to be versatile. They can use, as you said, a guy like Arvell Reese in a bunch of different ways. You can use Sonny in different ways. You can move Caleb all around. And it's like, okay, but what is your philosophy? And
stop them and get the ball.
Stop them. And that's what I was asking Matt Patricia that earlier.
Have you ever
this
watched
spring.
the Belichick gameplay?
It's an amoeba, right?
Every week. It's just, well, we did that last week. We would scout them and like, here's everything they've done. Just be ready for some form of these different things. And then you're like, once you get in the game, then you figure it out. But it's just what is working. It's a pragmatic approach.
Yeah, and it feels like, because it was hard for even Matt Patricia, just like you're saying, to put a pin in that. Well, it's not 3 down linemen, it's not 4 down linemen, it's not 3 linebackers, it's not 2 linebackers, it's not 5 defensive backs. It's what are the best players, what is required to stop the offense that you play this week. And you don't, I guess I just get so used to hearing coaches, this is what the system looks like, this is how these pieces are going to fit. And I think it's harder for coaches to operate in that world now that, as the ones that you mentioned, Parcells, Belichick, Matt Patricia as the defensive coordinator. Well, the ability to do a bunch of different things is critical, and to adapt and evolve over time, seems very good at that. And it's like, so yeah, even from week to week, you might see a different version of the Ohio State defense depending on who you're playing.
So you have to be creative, number one, as a coach, to find creative solutions for guys. Like player A is really good at A, C, D, and E. Mm-hmm. Like he's not very good at B. So like, let's not have him do that. And let's figure out who is good at B, and like we'll blend that stuff ultimately together. But then you also have to have players that are really intelligent, because you're going to ask them to do a lot of things. And so that was one of the things Matt was really impressed with, was how quick these guys can pick up and how versatile their skill sets can be. Because there might be times, like obviously I think probably your core 6, 7, 8 guys are going to play the lion's share of most games in critical situations. But there's probably another group of guys that's like 6 to 8, your 4th, 5th, 6th defensive backs, your 3rd and 4th linebacker, your 3rd and 4th edge guy, interior guys, where they may play 60 to 70% one game, and then the next game they may play 25 to 30, just depending upon the matchup and what they're trying to do and what they're trying to get done. And the way you do that is you get everybody buying on the team, like, hey, you guys are all going to play. Every week's going to be wholly different. So like maybe some weeks your role is going to be huge. Maybe you play so well in that role that we maybe incorporate a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But there might be another team the next week where we go from playing Wisconsin or Illinois to then playing a Michigan State or a Texas. Those game plans may look completely different personnel-wise.
Yeah. When you think about Matt Patricia's experience and the Bible and the ability to change from week to week, is there one player in particular that you think would let's set Caleb aside.
Yeah.
Let's set Sonny aside maybe. I don't want to narrow down all the options for you, but is there a player in particular that you think is that's a Matt Patricia guy? That's the one that unlocks what he wants to do.
I think Arvell Reese gives you a lot of that. He's very similar to Sonny, and he may even be a better blitzer because he played, an edge guy, because he played defensive line that first year. He's big, he's explosive. And
I don't know. He keeps getting bigger. I don't understand.
Because he got here, he was like 215. I don't think he had really eaten and lifted a whole lot. Yeah. And so when those guys get there, all of a sudden, Maradi's just lifting body by Maradi, and then they're just jamming food in your mouth like a mother bird. You just keep getting bigger and stronger. And I'm like, dude, you could still gain 5 more pounds on your frame.
Can he? I don't know what that would look like. It's terrifying.
Well, and that's the reality. I love, you're like, yeah, you want guys that are smaller that can move. I go, why don't we get bigger guys that can move? Because that sounds even better.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't need to be 230. If you can move really well at 250 the same way,
cool.
That's only going to be better for you, because then you can do some edge rush stuff. But I think Arvell, Jermaine Matthews, his ability to play in the slot, his ability to bail back and move around, it's going to be interesting, those interior safety, nickel outside of Caleb, who's going to play, a dime linebacker. Even, with there may do some like 3-3-5 stuff at times where you have Peyton Pierce is really good. Yeah. He's a very good ball-centric guy. And so maybe you walk Arvell up on the edge or you have Peyton back there. And so that's what I'm saying. Like there may be weeks where Peyton Pierce plays 65% of the game. There may be weeks where he plays 35% of the game. But he's a guy that needs to play and deserves to play. And so how do we build that in for him? And because he's really smart. And all those guys do like different things well. But Arvell, he can cover, he can rush, he can walk on the edge. You know, the thing was at the beginning, even for Sonny too, is you don't want to give those guys too much that they become average at everything and not great at just a couple.
Sure.
Like even watching Bryce West and like having him be in the slot sometimes, you know,
yeah.
and playing outside. Like you get guys that can be that versatile piece. It's really, really hard to find. And they've got some really, Patricia says, we got better players than you have in the NFL because you don't have to draft them. You can just bring them on in.
Get to recruit them. You get to pick the guys you want. I think that's, you know, I heard him use that analogy early on about just what New England's philosophy would be, which is you just have to draft the best available whenever that comes. And for them, it was always late in the first round. And then you can operate from there, but you don't get to draft first, or you don't get to pick first, second, third, and fourth, which Ohio State can sometimes do. You might not win them all, but it's like you get to actually go shop for the groceries and then build what you want, which I think it's possible, Bob, that maybe that we get to see like what Matt Patricia's ideal defense is because he's been recruiting, he's been more involved in that process, and he's got, I think, for whatever we've talked about with lack of maybe depth on the defensive line, he still has, as you mentioned, Arvell Reese or CJ Hicks that can supplement that if you need to. And it's not like Kenyatta Jackson or Caden Curry can't get after the passer, or Edric Houston and Caden McDonald. Like they have the pieces at the top, and like the depth is a whole nother matter, but we may see what Matt Patricia truly wants is this defense to look like right now because he's going to get to mold it in his image, and they're not devoid of talent.
No, they're not at all. And like maybe they're a little light on the D line, especially on the inside. So maybe you do some stuff where you're doing, you know, walking Arvell up on the edge, and you're going to kind of, you know, maybe more of a 3 down, and you can have him and CJ stand up, and there's kind of a different look there. And so you're only using maybe kind of 1 D tackle and a couple ends and outside rush guys. And then maybe you're ultra aggressive. You know, if you have bigger guys, okay, well, maybe we can sit in 2 gap a little more and play it that way. But that's where all of this comes in. It's like, well, I'm not going to ask somebody to do something that they're not really physically equipped to do well. And if we don't have a ton of depth at the place, well, let's find a way to utilize areas that we have other guys that might be better. And in some games, like you just have to tell someone, hey, we got to mount up and go. Like they're a big physical team, they want to run it a lot. What else also helps that though is if your offense scores like 35 points in the first 3 quarters, then teams might not be able to run it quite as much.
Yeah.
And so then you can kind of dictate how aggressive you choose to be.
So you're saying stock up on Matt Patricia. Well, you were already high.
I was already.
You were just holding.
I was holding.
Okay.
I mean, I am a hold guy.
Okay.
I mean, if you can buy more, then buy more. But
yeah.
I mean, I bought it when he got here, and then I was only confirmed watching it. And then you said watching the players interact with him. I said this about Ryan when it was at the end of the year, and there were people calling for his head and this and that, fire him, do this, do that. And ultimately, I go, watch how the players interact with him. That'll tell you everything. Because if they don't believe in him, that'll be obvious.
Yeah.
And then they'll say those things and allude to it. Whereas here, like you see the interactions with Matt Patricia, those guys all love him. It's all good. Now, they haven't played a game yet, but still with that, there's a high degree where they relate really well. They feel confident in him. He feels confident in them. And they have a good relationship.
Yeah. Well, we are into July, so a lot of that foundation has been set, but then you get into training camps.
We're pouring the footers right now, Austin. I like that. We're going to the foundation.
That's right. The foundation, and then July 31st. At the end of this month, get to see some practice. And I know Bob will be out there, full coverage, morning juice, I imagine.
Yeah.
Certainly the Austin Birm show will be out there for 10 TV Plus, 97.1 The Fan, and a lot more Austin Birm show coming throughout this month, as always, every single day getting ready for media days out there in Las Vegas. I just couldn't get you to come along for that one.
The media days are where?
Vegas.
Oh,
yeah.
When is that?
July 22nd.
Maybe I will go.
All right, come on out.
Who knows? See, they just have one day though, right?
The Buckeyes
the first
are
day,
first day, and then we're getting out of there. We don't care about the rest. That's meaningless stuff. But you can just crash with me. We'll be all right.
There we go.
So all that's coming.
For a park bench somewhere.
It's been too long since I got to catch up with Bobby Carpenter here on this channel, but I appreciate him spending a little Wednesday with us on the beat. For Bob, I'm Austin. We'll talk to you later.